We don't become one. We already are. And we just need to remember. My name is Bob. You guys know me. You've heard all little bits and pieces. I'm not going to talk a lot about my history or my background because let's talk about the future instead, And afterwards I'll share all the stories. But basically I came here in 95 was my first ministry with RSI at the time, a Science and Mind Church. And I've been a minister since I was 19 years old. I started off in the Baptist church. Please don't hold that against me. And it was wonderful, and I'm glad I got started there because that's where I was at the time, and I've grown and changed and chased all kinds of spirituality over the years, but this is where I landed, and this is where my home is and continues to be, which is in Science of Mind. So happy to be here, happy to teach it, happy that you guys want to let me come. I've been talking to Lane about this for a long time, and we kept not being able to get dates together, and this one finally worked, so here I am. And I want to thank Diane and April here on the front row. They were part of that center in 95. Well, not part of the center. Totally April wasn't, but you were part of the community that was part of the center. And we were linked up and connected, and Diane was my first ever church treasurer. Taught me how to do DOS. Anybody remember DOS? Yeah. I learned DOS from Diane, and I've learned so much more over the years since then. So, living as one in a divided world. This is an important message for today for all of us, I believe. It is for me. I have to keep reminding myself of what I'm about to share with you. But I want to begin with a question. Are there experiences of dividedness or division in your life right now? Think about where that is. Could be inside of yourself. Might be in the world around you. Politics, philosophy, thoughts. Might be closer to home in your family. I have a lot of that. My family is all from the South, so we're like all over the place in this stuff. Might be something to do with friendships or community. And it can be internal. You ever been divided inside yourself about something? Maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that. Yeah. So, if that's true, how do we live with it? Because we talk about one and oneness here all the time and what we're going to do and how we're going to be it. So a few years ago, I don't remember how many exactly, I was at a gay and lesbian celebration in Denver, and I found a T-shirt. By the way, in case you didn't know, I'm gay. Okay, let's get that out of the way first. Everybody's safe, not necessarily hunting too much right now. So I bought this T-shirt, and it said, "We the People" means everyone. And it was in the print that you see in the "We the People" on the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, whichever it's on. And it was wonderful, and I wore it different places and whatever. And so I came to Florida for a retreat for ministers, which is one of the first places that Lane and I hung out. And it wasn't for ministers, it was for ministerial students getting ready to graduate. And I was working at home office at the time. So I wore the T-shirt, and I'm driving down through Central Florida up through Central Florida from Orlando and the back country, and I passed this cafe. And oh my God, this cafe looked so good. It was one of those country cooking things, and I love that food, as you can tell. And I thought, I'm going to pull in here because it was jammed. The parking lot was full of pickup trucks and vans and all kinds of workman kind of stuff. It was lunchtime, and I thought, hey, this is going to be good food. So I pulled in, I went inside, sat down, got my order in, and then I started hearing the conversations around me and realized, ooh, I'm in enemy territory here, and I've got on this gay T-shirt. What in the world was I thinking? And I finally I had to go to the bathroom really bad, which meant I had to walk through this crowd. And as I'm walking through, I passed a table full of guys, men, about 12 of them. It was a double table. all with paraphernalia from veterans. They were all veterans, and they were part of a veterans group. A couple of guys were World War II stuff. Most of the rest were Vietnam. And I thought, oh, I'm in so much trouble. So, because they all turned around and looked at my shirt. And I thought, uh-oh. So I went to the restroom, and I'll tell you later what happened. I love this kind of stuff. Okay, so here's what I want to talk with you about. Because, see, in our tradition, we say something very simple and yet very profound. There is one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. It expresses as you. We've been hearing it all morning already. It expresses as you. It expresses all of us. Ruth Miller, in paraphrasing Emma Curtis Hopkins, if you know who Emma Curtis Hopkins was, she was the teacher of teachers, one of my favorite go-tos for material and for learning when I feel like I get lost. But she talks about this whole idea that this oneness is what matters. It's the most important thing. It's like we are all waves in a single ocean. You know, I also heard talk where it's like we're a drop in the ocean. But the important part of that is you're a drop in the ocean that's still in the ocean. You're not taken out and separate. We are all part of this infinite universal consciousness. And we are an expression of it like the waves of the ocean. Because at the level of vision and appearance, waves are all very different. And they're wonderful and they're beautiful and they have different shapes and sizes. But underneath that is that universal ocean that's just really the waves is just a thing on top. And that's what we are. Waves don't separate from the oceans. We don't separate from life. We're part of life, and life continues to show up through us. So if this unity is so true and so real as we talk about it, then why does division feel so real? You know what I mean? Why is it when I walked through that cafe, I suddenly felt like an alien? Why is it when we talk to a family member? You know that experience where you're sitting down talking to a friend and you're having this nice conversation, and then somehow politics or something about somebody's kid slips in, and all of a sudden you feel your heart kind of go, I got to start to protect myself here. I got to start protecting what I believe. I got to be sure I don't really want to alienate the other person, but it's just, you know? Am I the only one experiencing that in the world today? I think it's worse now than ever. It's not that it ever wasn't here, but it was. So what happens is that we begin to want to protect our idea and our values and our thoughts. We want to be seen. You know, it's big because we're humans and we care about what we care about. We love what we love. We want to be known. We want to know that what we think and believe and feel and who we are matters. And that's all very good. Brene Brown, who's one of my other sheroes, writes in Braving the Wilderness that there's a difference between fitting in and belonging. And when we fit in, we have to adjust ourselves. Like me wanting to go back out to the car I was driving and put on a different shirt so I would fit in. Because I had some kind of tough-looking shirts, too. But, you know, it's too late. I was already in there. So then it's about belonging. Often we try to adjust ourselves to fit in, but belonging means we are who we are. And who we are celebrates that when we belong as our true selves, not as some adjusted version. I don't know about you, but I've had some relationships where I thought I had to fit in. And I did. The last 5 years I was a Baptist was one of those things. I just had to fit in, man. I didn't belong there anymore. And they didn't want me and I didn't want them, but I tried to fit in. I won't go there any further. Brene says that, you know, when belonging feels threatened, that's when we defend. That's when that heart starts to close up and you start to get in that defensive mode. That's when we want to protect what we think and feel. That's when we hold tighter to these positions within us. But there's a deeper truth, you see. Most of the time when we're arguing, whether we're saying it out loud to other people or not, what we're really doing, we're not arguing about what we think we are. See, we're arguing about opinions, about whether it's politics or whatever. What we're really arguing about is trying to protect the fulfillment of our needs. What do I really need in this situation or that situation? Marshall Rosenberg talks a lot about that. He's the nonviolent communications person, which they now talk about it as compassionate communication, which is better. See, often what we're feeling is we're not getting that need that we have to connect, to be part of, to belong. And as soon as we get into in my experience, we get into political discussions, things shift really fast. We stop belonging and we try to figure out how to fit in or how to get the other person to agree with us so we can belong. You ever have that one? You ever argue with folks around differences in politics and how to raise kids and that stuff? I see the smile, so I'm not alone. You know. But what happens is so powerful is when we can take a moment and step back and get to what is that underneath in me? What am I needing right now? Then we take a deep breath and we can look clearly into the face of the other person and see a different vision. Because usually what I've experienced over and over again, and I do this in my family quite often, is there's a fear behind the anger, behind the argument, behind all of that stuff. And if I can see the fear instead of the anger, I can begin then to see what is that person afraid of losing about truth and life that matters to them. Yeah? What's the need? Might be a need for safety. Might be a need for caring, valuing. We all need to be valued. Some would say a need for respect, but respect is about valuing, and it has a separation kind of thing to it. So it's not about putting you on a pedestal and respecting you. It's about valuing. I need to be valued. We say in the work around shame healing that as children we need to matter, and we need to know the people taking care of us can be trusted. We need to matter. We still need to matter. That's why we come together in communities. My daughter, who grew up in a science and mind world, very prim and proper girl for a long time, wouldn't ride in her cousin's pickup truck because it was a pickup truck. We're growing up in Atlanta, the city. She was a city girl. Well, now she helps drive. Her son drives a pickup truck. Her husband drives a pickup truck. Everybody's got pickup trucks. And she goes about to football games. She would never have done that when she was younger. But what she said to me recently about it is, ball games are where people come to be in community together. That's why you pay all that money to go in a stadium with 1,000 people to cheer all for the same person or boo for the same person or whatever, because it's a feeling of connection and community and belonging. And people are so hungry for that in the midst of everything else going on in the world. That's why this community is so important. We're here. Come join us. Yeah, it's important. But you got to look past the fear to see what the need is in order to get to that. And that's where the turning point happens. That's where things start to really shift. See, needs are universal. The need for love, the need for connection, the need for safety, the need to matter. All of that is universal. Every human being has it. And with all the conflict we're seeing in the world right now, we underneath all of that, we have the same needs. And when we can start to look at that instead of the strategies about how to get the needs met, we're in a different place in our own thoughts and consciousness. We can begin to belong even if we don't agree. I have, like I said, my family is all over the place in this. And I'm trying to decide how far to go with that. They're probably listening, so I have to watch it here. Not long ago, well, about a year ago now, actually, I got into that defensive, I got to say my strategy thing, and I called we were in a disagreement, one of my family members, who I love dearly, who I respect because he's the best father to my grandchildren I can imagine, and he's his circle and his world, he protects that, he loves it, he provides in so many wonderful ways. I've even told him once that, I wish you'd have been my dad. I'd be a different person today, and I would be a better person today. And yet, we were on different sides of a discussion, and at one point, I got all huffy and said, well, you're just a conservative that's so conservative you can't even hear what I'm saying. Well, needless to say, that did not assist the conversation at all. Instead, he got more angry at me. I'd never seen him quite so angry. And it just didn't get us anywhere. Since then, I've come back to him and said, I know that's not true. I'm a gay man. You're not. You're straight. You love me. You've never questioned anything about that. Your best friends are gay. The world around us is all sort of diversity that he lives in. We live in Atlanta. It's a very diverse community. And how could I even say that you were conservative about that? Because I was name-calling, because I was protecting a strategy, not looking at the need. All he needed was for me to hear and respect and honor him in his opinion. I didn't have to agree with him, but I needed him to agree with me, because my strategy was better. Strategies just separate us. We still have to recognize them, and there's still painful, horrible things happening in the world because of this. But recognizing the need underneath and connecting it doesn't mean I'm agreeing with the strategy. I don't have to agree with you. We start to recognize each other, can start to see each other. He and I are very close now. I was recently pretty ill, very ill. We're in the hospital and stuff, and I'm out, I'm fine, everything's taken care of. But I needed a week somewhere. I needed help after I got out. I stayed with him. And, we had a chance to mend anything that might have been going on. And it was wonderful. So making all of this real is about bringing it into your everyday experience and not letting your strategy or their strategy separate you. It's about diving deeper into the needs. What do I need? Yeah. See, this is real. This is not theory. This is not just pie in the sky, because unity and oneness is not just a philosophy. It's not just a metaphor. This is real. We're finding out in the physical world we are so much more alike than different. The whole stuff about genomes, the DNA and the RNA and all the science of that, we are far more alike than we are different across the planet. And finding that unity and that oneness in it is good. Where we can listen and listen courageously, willing to set aside our strategy. What might I be needing in this moment? What might they be needing in this moment? That's brave. That's braving the wilderness. See, we don't need to agree. We don't need to fix anything in them. But we need to recognize them and their needs, as we need to recognize our own. Because it's in that recognition that something new happens. It's called empathy. You know, when you say something and someone says, "Oh yeah, I understand. You've really been through a tough time here." You know how that feels? You know that you feel that lift? You feel that something new is happening here in the world? That's what happens when we do the recognition with each other of our needs, our desires, of our being human and different. That's where healing starts. That's where unification starts. And sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. The coolest thing is we get to start over every day. Or as Psalm says, the next moment can be a whole new world, depending on how you change your mind. You don't have to wait for anything. You don't have to go back to school or go do this or go do that. You just change your mind. Be willing to make a different choice. Yeah. So, needs, not positions. It really makes a difference. So you get to come back again and again, and choose differently. So when I walked out of that bathroom in the cafe and headed back to the table, I saw some of my food was already showing up, and I'm like, "Oh, good." So I thought, the way I'll do this, I'm just going to focus on that table and not see anything here and just walk. Well, as I passed the table with the guys, the one on the end grabbed my arm and stopped me. And he looked up with tears in his eyes and said, "Thank you. Thank you for recognizing that we, the people, includes me too. Because I'm a Vietnam vet and I have been forgotten." We probably wouldn't have agreed on anything else in the world. But that moment was a moment. And I just stood there. And the other guys were all nodding. A couple of them had tears. I started to cry a little bit. But it was okay. And there was nothing else that needed to be said. And I just said, "Thank you for you are and for what you've given." That's what happens when we can get past the strategy and see that we, the people, all matter. And we, the people, are all loved. So I'll leave you with this. Before there are opinions, we are human. Before we are separate, we are expressions of one life. Beneath everything that appears to divide us, there is something different. Yeah. We are already whole. See, we don't become one. We already are. And we just need to remember. God bless you all. Thank you. And so it is.
Hope someday